And he thought that you were
It's funny,
going to
that
sell
shows it
cameras
on.
and stuff from your building.
No, that little building out back, I want to take and move it across the road and eventually turn it into a little takeout.
Okay.
And what I wanna have
You
is,
thought from your new building, and I
You know,
haven't
you
had a
almost
tour of it
feel
yet.
like the room is shifting.
Okay, I'll
It
tell him.
is
That's
shifting.
no,
okay.
that's what we're gonna shut clams,
Yeah.
process lobsters.
Do I have a
and
minute? Do I have a
process
minute?
crab.
Okay, and what do you do upstairs?
There's two bedroom apartments. There's two
Oh,
bedroom.
well, that's good, because that's a need.
Yep, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, I was with him today on a
Yep.
field trip, and
Yep.
he and April.
Yep, no, we're gonna, April come up with the names, I think.
I'm gonna bring just what you said to
Yeah.
come in and, okay.
Cute.
Yep, we like hamburger rolls, hot dog rolls, lobster rolls, crab meat rolls.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
hamburgers, hot dogs,
Well,
something
'cause
small.
He
It
owns
is
kind of
on,
good
by the
seafood.
way.
Oh, yeah.
The machine's
Yeah.
on.
It's on right now?
Yeah, shall we move to come out of executive session?
Yeah.
Katie's gone.
Yeah.
We wait for her.
Well, yes. The ladies. Julie's gone too, isn't she? This one is kind of fun. I'm just looking. He's very
Thank you,
tall,
Abden.
and he's staring at
I
us.
was way up in Long Cove today.
Who is
How'd you
that?
make out?
Is that Justin?
There's 3 up there, all licensed.
Yep.
See our new.
I think he used to be a young boy. I'm a friend of your mother's,
Oh,
so just behave yourself.
I guess I better. You got the hotline. Just call her, she'll call me.
But you found your way up in there though, huh?
Well, I walked in, Delano's, Terry Delano's parents, on their property, and I came up about a half a mile or so up the road, more closer to the trailer park.
Did we give this to Julie?
I came
Where's
up
her
back on
stuff?
the road there.
Yep.
That's
I was
Julie's.
like, gosh, I gotta get back to my truck. Gabe came along, picked me up. There's a cop without his vehicle, what's going on? Give me a ride. It's already on.
Well, good.
Oh, I got some,
Somebody brought some beautiful irises.
Katie brought those.
Nice.
It is recording, just so everybody knows.
Had online, I did
Do you
some
want these
editing on
tonight,
one of
Julie?
these things.
I'm sorry?
Do you want these tonight?
You can, yes.
So I signed it, and the only thing we didn't have is the additional comments, but it's down.
Come out of executive session.
Need a motion, come out of executive session?
So
Make a
moved.
motion to come out?
Have a
Executive
second?
session?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. I can't see you there. Is that yours?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Okay. Let me get my stuff together here. Okay, pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Have a public hearing. 3.1 liquor license renewal for JDSI DBA Bella Gia's. Going to open the public hearing. Could I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Any public comments? I see we had
I
something in
have
the
some comments.
packet.
Where is that?
What's up?
Is that, oh,
Like
okay, that's why I
everything's
can't
good,
find
I
it.
guess.
I have some comments on that.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Well, I have no problem with the, with them having beer to go with their pizza, because that's like peanut butter and jelly, so that's fine. But when I was looking through this, I noticed that they put that they were 3 miles from the nearest school or church. It's like a half a mile. And it's just for accuracy.
Yeah.
And here's my question on the back. It's owned by, where are they? 3 people. And each one
Yeah, it's only
Owns 10
30%.
owns 10% of it. So it's only 30% owned, and I wanna
Well,
know
I
what's the
would-
rest of the 10%, the 70%, where is that?
Then I would table it for the next meeting.
And it's, I mean, I even checked, I said, that's not 3 miles to the Miller School. And it's like 0.6 miles up to the Congo Church. And probably closer to the Baptist Church.
I
So,
would-
I mean,
So
it's
you have
it's not
more
that I have a
questions.
problem with it, but it just should be accurate if it's going to.
Do we make just a motion to,
Yep,
Table it.
no,
we can table it to the next meeting if you want.
do you wanna wait that
Well,
long?
do they,
I mean,
Well,
if
we
they
shouldn't
need
be.
this, I mean, if they need to
Well,
have
the
the
thinking is we
permit,
could, a motion to approve it with the contingencies of,
that
adjusting those,
correcting
correcting those
inaccuracies.
inaccuracies.
And Julie will see all of it and make sure everything's up to snuff, yeah.
I mean.
It's not a new application.
I
They,
could teach him to write his
No.
name.
Well, it's new for them for
no, I mean,
alcohol.
it's
No.
not.
No, it's not.
It's
No?
not.
Okay,
It's not.
oh, it's just a renewal?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so, the way it sounded. I didn't
Do
pay
they
attention.
actually sell it already?
Yes.
Do they?
Yeah, it's a renewal, it says renewal.
yeah,
Oh,
Yep.
so it's
So-
just beer.
That's why
I know.
They've checked that it's not a new application.
Yeah, and nobody could remember if they had it or not.
I mean, are they presently serving beer?
We don't know.
They can't until this is renewed.
Has their old one run out?
Yeah,
Mhm,
4/24/18.
Oh, well,
so.
oh. Huh,
That's what I'm saying is.
they're a little late.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say is that,
I didn't catch that.
are any of these, this isn't my area of expertise. It's the clerk is licensing. But I know in New Jersey, we would table it. We wouldn't vote on it pending.
Well, it does say false statements are punishable by law, too. I mean,
I mean,
Well, they're not-
I understand that they're not operating right now, but if they haven't been since 4/24.
Then it's
Not that big a deal.
not a big deal. I was just
I
thinking if it
would-
ran out
I-
next week. or
I
the-
think
we should
I
table it.
personally would advise you to table it
I'll make a motion to table.
second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
professionally, would
Yep.
advise you.
Thank you.
Not personally, professionally
that's fine.
advise you.
Yep, that's good.
Trying to move it along.
Okay. Adjustments to the agenda, anything there?
Don't we have to come out of the public hearing?
Well, yeah, we gotta close the public hearing, yeah.
Probably should have done
I
that
know
before
we
we
didn't do
acted.
nothing.
That's right.
But, yeah,
Yep.
do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Should we act on that after the public hearing is closed? Since we
Technically,
acted
yeah,
on
we
it
should.
before, don't we
Yeah.
usually act on it
We put
after
the cat
the
before
Great.
the horse, so,
Yeah.
cat?
sorry about that. I'll make a motion to table it till the next meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Okay. No adjustments to the agenda. Citizens' comments?
Hi,
Hi, Jen.
hi guys. I just wanted to, show you guys our new, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our new map and guide for the WBA and, to let you all know that the WBA, donated an ad for the town in there, and it's
Thank you.
$375 worth, so.
Wow.
But it says, locate your business in the hub of Midcoast, Maine, Waldeboro. Has the town seal and a beautiful picture of the river. Expanding your business, seeking to relocate, or starting a new business. Waldeboro offers a great centralized location with diverse properties, ideal for retail, service, and manufacturing of nearly any size and type. Contact us today with the website and the phone number for the town office. I just wanted you guys to know. These are going out everywhere, so we're on the move.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you for this, and thank you for everything else you do. It's, those meetings are so uplifting as far as getting to know what's going on in your town.
Yep, I actually,
It's
that's,
amazing.
that's the goal, because we have a lot of new businesses in town, and a lot of them are owned by young people, young couples especially, and with a lot of energy and great marketing knowledge. And they work social media marketing like crazy. And so there's been a lot more energy.
It has, are those those meetings are open to,
Yep.
if select board members want to go. And I
Absolutely.
learn a great deal by going
That's
to
the
those
goal.
meetings.
The goal is to.
And they're fun.
Yep, they're a lot of fun. But the goal is really for the businesses, for us to all get to know our own businesses. And we try to have at least a new business and an older business present at each meeting about their business and about changes to their business, maybe, excuse me, good news about their business. And then we have other people come in and talk to us about stuff, so we're very happy. We have almost 90 members this year.
Nice.
We're close, I think we need one more.
Yeah, great.
Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted, Jen, you want to take this opportunity to talk about the June meeting?
Yeah, sure, since we have a camera. We're doing an event in June at the last Wednesday of the month. It's our regular meeting. We're gonna be at the Downey School of Massage. It's called Bringing Bucks to Your Business. We will have representatives from the Small Business Association, from Maine Technology Institute, from the Department of Economic and Community Development, from MCED, which is the organization our planners are associated with in town, and we'll have the Lincoln County Regional Planning Office. I believe there's one more, I'm not sure if we're gonna have someone from SCORE, and we're gonna have Lucas McNally, who's our local business person who him and his wife own Long Winter Soap. Lucas actually works with people all over developing crowdfunding types of efforts. And so he's gonna talk briefly about crowdfunding, and the goal of this meeting is to help our businesses look at a variety of types of financial resources and think about strategically leveraging those types of efforts together to either start a business, expand a business, or develop a new product. So anyway, that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, any more citizens' comments? Select board comments? Katie?
Waldeboro Day programs are out. I thought this was great. It tells you what's going on, what time, what day, and it's just wonderful, so pick one up.
T-shirt.
And also, I learned something new.
New shirts,
Those are nice.
just saying.
Those
Look
are
at that.
for the staff. There's
Yes.
T-shirts for everybody else.
You get that, isn't that nice?
Looks good.
Nice shirt.
Hopefully it's cool.
I have also learned that LCTV is not, everybody doesn't have the LCTV. It's, if you're under the old plan, which is Time Warner, it still is Channel 7. But if you're under the new plan, which is Spectrum, it is on Channel 3103. I did not know this, so I'm putting it out there for everybody. So if you want to watch these meetings, those are the channels. Thank you.
Bob, do you have any?
Yeah, I got a couple things. The library newsletter just came out today, and on the front cover, you've got this advertisement about Brats and Brews.
Right.
We're gearing up for the July 7th event, and I'm hoping that everybody will be able to go. It's got a separate area for the tasting of 4 breweries, 3 of whom are doing, I understand they're doing it gratis. But Odd Alewives Farm Brewery is right here in Waldeboro. They will be there. Oxbow Brewing Company, Thresher's Brewing will be there, and Liberty Craft Brewing will also be there. And then there'll be the brats, of course. And then there'll be an auction afterward. And I encourage everybody to go to that. It was a lot of fun last year, and this will be our 2nd year. We've learned some things. We'll do it better this year, and we'll learn some more things and do it better the following year. So I hope to see everyone there. And speaking about Alewives, we enjoyed an evening there on last week, on Wednesday night. They had the WBA over, and it was great. You can go there and bring your food, get a pizza, go and sit down, and then order up some of their beer. And I'm not a beer drinker, but it's really good beer. The third thing I'd like to mention, and this is more related to select board business, I will not be here at the next meeting. I'll be gone, family thing. So that's the first meeting in July is when I'll be here.
Okay. Jan?
Oh, what-
How about an update on your building?
That'd be great.
Well, it's about 3/4 of the way done. The electrician and plumber are in this week, so hopefully as soon as they get done, we can complete it. Hopefully the buying station part of the project will be done before the end of June, and then we'll move on to the rest of it.
So you'll be buying clams in there as well?
Yep,
Yep.
that's what we're gonna, that's our priority right now, is by the end of June, so.
You were gonna introduce Justin, so.
I thought he was on here a little late.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. We have a new shellfish warden. We've had him for 2 or 3 months, 4 months. And his name's Justin Hills, and he's done an excellent job, and he's learning the ropes down here in the river. He's been on the shore quite a bit, so.
He has a few things to say.
And
Well,
shall do
well, my big thing tonight was to come and, speak to the people who, ultimately hired me and I'm working for. So yes, my name is Justin Hills. I come from way away in the big county of Knox.
Oh, you're one of them?
Yeah. I actually live in Waldo. So I have to drive through Knox to get here.
But he graduated from Madonna.
Yeah, I did graduate from Madomic 27 years ago now, but who's doing the math? So it's kind of
Only for
like,
men, but,
it's kind of like coming back home here. I had a lot of friends in this area I used to hang out, and one of the big things I've seen is, I think a lot of people judge Waldoboro on their trip through on Route 1. Boy, what are they missing if they're not going down the Dutch Neck and down along the river and the properties and the homes and the people. Oh my. What a different view of Waldoboro you get when you go down through there. And of course, it does creep a lot of people out like it did today. And I come walking, from the shoreline out of the woods, and now it's behind their house, and they're like, "Whoa, what's that? And what's going on?"
Sasquatch.
Yeah. So he does exist. He's carrying a gun. So I've been doing a lot of my walking. Actually, today I had 3.13 miles on the shoreline down along Long Cove and stuff. Surprising a lot of people, and they're like, "Wow, didn't expect to see a warden down here." And so far, I've only had just one violator just the other day. So finally wrote my first ticket. More to come, I'm sure, as the price continues to get higher.
Price goes up, you'll have more action.
Yeah, there'll be more, but just really learning the area, learning the people. I've been talking to a lot of wonderful people who own property here in town. Everybody is more than happy to let me have access to their property, to gain access down to the flats where the digging is and everything. So it's been a really great experience. I'm helping to cover some patrol shifts, and I've been doing my training because I'm also a paramedic. So I've been doing some training with Lash and them next door, so I'll be jumping on the rescue shortly. The things with the new town truck that a bunch of us facilitate the use of, I think is going well. We're getting things taken care of with that. And I wanted to see if anybody had any questions of me, but also I wanted to offer if anybody ever would like to come out and take a ride and see what I do, and maybe throw on your mud boots someday and just take a little walk. I'm more than happy to have anybody come with me anytime. So feel free to get a hold of me.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm new to the area, and I'm new to Maine. What exactly does the shellfish warden?
So the shellfish warden in this area, basically I'm responsible for two things. It would be the soft shell clams and the razor clams. So my job is to make sure that the people who are out there digging are digging in the proper areas, not enclosed areas. They're digging clams that are more than 2 inches, or razor clams over 4 inches, and I make sure they have a license.
And your area is just Madomic in?
It is just the
in
Madomic.
Lincoln County?
That's it.
In
No,
Waldoboro.
In Waldoboro?
In Waldoboro.
In Waldoboro, within Lincoln County.
Yes.
I come from doing the same job next door on the St. George River for the Knox County Sheriff's Department, where I also am still a part-time deputy over there. And that was quite an area, because it went all the way from Owl's Head, where there's an area, over to the river, and then all the way over the backside of Cushing, and that was a huge area to cover. But I've seen that down here, it's a smaller area, but there's a lot of nooks and crannies, and there's also a lot more diggers down here, and there's a lot more area to actually dig. Even though they had a bigger area over there, square mileage, they didn't have nearly the flats for diggers to be able to be active, so big difference over here.
So if your invitation was open to the public, I'd love to come along with you someday if you give me a way to contact you.
Sure, I'll write my name and number down on a piece of paper. Let me see, is it all right for me to take people from the public in the company vehicle? That would be something we'll have to figure out.
We will chat about that.
But
You might have to sign a release.
You have business cards?
I do have some. You know what I mean? I'll go get them in the truck and I'll bring them back in. I'll write
Sounds
my
like a
cell
good
phone
idea.
on all of them.
Okay.
I was reading your mind.
I know. You're very good at that. I can tell you're a well-trained husband.
Oh, yeah. I gotta get home and mow the lawn.
That's good. Happy life, happy wife. Happy wife, happy life.
So for me, everything's going wonderful now, and just, I like working with the people I'm working with, having a great time.
Cool.
I get a paycheck along with it, yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Welcome.
Welcome, yes.
Okay.
It's nice
Yes.
you're here.
I'll be
Thank you.
back in shortly with some cards. I'll set them right up here and anybody can grab one.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Any more select board comments?
Well, not as long as Abden's, but, but I am curious when you've planned your open house for your new building, for the
Yet to be
community.
determined.
Okay, well, keep us informed on that, I think it's,
I'm
I'm interested.
how do I put this? I'm at the mercy of the carpenters, the plumbers, and the electricians.
All them people.
Well, and do you belong to the WBA yet?
Not yet.
Oh, well, you will really like it, and then they can come tour and get the word out. Good. Well, I was just going to mention Odd Alewives had an open house for their business, and it was packed. It was, I think it went from 2 in the afternoon until 8 at night. I didn't get there till 6 probably. But they told me that it was, I mean, they even had a shuttle bus taking people. There were that many. And it was such a nice example of community to see everybody together, and it was outdoors, and it was a fine community experience there. And anyway, I was quite pleased. It was fun. I went to graduation recently at Madomic Valley High School. It was a lovely graduation. It was Linda Pease's first graduation that she emceed or whatever it was, and she did a marvelous job. To watch I think they gave, I don't know, $600,000 or something worth of scholarships to the students, and it was, I work there, so it was really nice to see all of those students and how receive these awards and going off into the big wide world and doing their thing. And it's really, it's nice to see our local students because they're going to be hopefully our citizens of tomorrow, and that's always nice. Art Walk was Saturday. There were, I think, 11 people on the Art 11 places. I decided that I was going to, I got a route, and I started at the Historical Society. And it took me almost 2 hours to get back to town. I didn't get to all of them, but what interesting, very interesting to go to the Historical Society. You learn a lot about your community there, and then I just worked my way downtown. It took me 2 hours. It was very nice, a nice tour of the Waldo Theater, which is, they have a nice board, a nice professional board who's working to get that, bring that back, and that was nice that they were part of the Art Walk too. I was really pleased to see that. So I think that was it. So we have a good community here.
I got one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to apologize, I wasn't able to make the graduation. I was in Brewer, hopefully trying to protect a $20 million industry for the state with the Elvers situation that we've just had with poachers and stuff like that. They shut the season down early.
Yeah.
We're trying to regain 2,000 more pounds of quota for the state, and I was at a public hearing there, and I was at a public hearing Thursday night as well, to hopefully keep our fishery open, so.
So if you get that, that goes on to next year, so is
Yep, yep, that's what we were trying to get, is another 2,000 pounds added to our quota.
Abden, did you want to talk about the Elver landings for Waldeboro?
Yeah, being part of that, I'm the executive director of the Elver Association, and because me having to be there for that, we get the landings report from the state, and roughly we produce between $750,000 to $1 million of Elvers out of this river in about a month's time.
Wow.
And that's one of the big reasons why I push for these fisheries to keep moving forward and protect them as much as possible.
I like the fact that the lottery opened up again.
Yep,
At least
which that was my bill to
Right,
open
give
it
us
up
an
to.
opportunity
And we get
to
11 new
try.
people, 11 people got licenses, and it's a lottery ticket, basically, because it's yours for the rest of your life until you give it up. And it's yours for a life. It's a good money opportunity for somebody.
The number you said, $750,000 to $1 million, what was that? Is that tonnage, cost? Or?
The amount of money
Oh,
that it's
okay,
valued
okay.
at.
Sounds good.
Yeah, some years it's been between $500,000 and $1 million, but it averages out about $750,000 in a probably a 6 to 7 week span.
Do you know roughly how many pounds that was? Average?
There was an email, I can't remember, it's between 300 and 900 pounds. We've caught, it depends on the price of what because some years like this year it was $2,700 to start out, drop back to $1,400. Last year was $1,350, roughly is what we got. So the value varies on the price, but this year we should be pushing, close to $750,000 out of this river, just in that short 5 to 6 week span. And 95% of the people that fish down there are locals. So not only just for the clams, but the Elvers are a huge part of this. So.
Okay. Anything else, Jan? You all good?
Actually, I have that email.
I know there's an email, but I can't remember the exact poundages.
1,177,498, total pounds 905.03
Which year was that?
pounds, 2017.
So last year it was
That was
over
last year.
$1.1 million.
Yeah.
Tenth of the quarter.
And the year before, it was 763 pounds and 1,091,908.
So that's out of a 6 week period. So that's a huge amount of money in a 6 week period.
And you don't realize that, which is one of those things that we're trying to, everybody knows we're the #1 clam landing, but the river is also important for other reasons, so it's not just the clams. So
Right.
we're trying to make sure that gets out there, because that's very important to,
Right.
go ahead, I'm gonna
No,
shut
no,
up,
no,
'cause
no,
it's
no.
really your
No,
thing.
and it's just that it's residents that are fishing there. So it's not just, and there is overlap with clam diggers and Elver fishermen. I have a Elver license and I dig clams, but there's a handful of guys that don't dig clams in Waldeboro, but do have an Elver license that live in the town. So the river is very resourceful for a majority of people.
Not to mention the lobsters, but it just,
Yep.
I saw that up.
Well, there's only a handful allowed to fish up in there. Remember that,
Right.
Cliff?
But we won't even get into that. Anyway, so Waldeboro Day is this Saturday. Parade lineups, 9:30, VFW, Mill Street.
Dance Friday night,
Dance Friday
You
night.
going?
yeah,
Potluck,
Potluck.
potluck,
Yeah.
4 o'clock.
yep, and then a dance, 7
And a
o'clock
dance.
VFW.
7 is the dance.
And
Happy-
it's fun. You can BYOB, great DJ. It's a lot of fun. They play 50s music on up to now. So, there'll be lots of dancing. Everybody should come if you can. It's a good time. A good time will be had by all.
Okay.
I will probably fall over, so it's always just the humiliation is worth it, just to come and laugh at me.
Happy Father's Day Sunday. What's that?
Town manager's report.
Yep.
Speeding has been brought up this week. So, I just wanted to let everybody know, we're well aware that there are speeding issues in town.
In town or outskirts of town?
All over town.
Okay, because I got a complaint today, so.
But it's a countywide problem. It's not unique to Waldeboro. Abden and I attended the county budget meetings. It was the #1 complaint and problem that the sheriff has. And it's not unique to Waldeboro. But I think it's a part of a larger discussion that maybe warrants being put on the agenda when the chief could be here. But I just want to say, because I've seen it on Facebook, it was a large item of discussion. I think we have to be very vigilant. People get very upset, somebody's speeding, dump trucks are speeding, somebody's speeding by my house. Where are the cops? The cops are busy. In one night, one of our officers last week had 3 OUIs. Domestic violence. When you put that up, and it sounds terrible to say, when you get an email that says, there's dump truck speeding, somebody's going to be killed. Yes, we do take that seriously, but somebody getting beaten is also very serious. So that balance is difficult, especially in a small department. So part of that discussion needs to be, do we hire more officers? How do you want to handle it? We put an officer out where the speeding was reported, several of the speeding was reported. Sometimes cars seem, and dump trucks especially, seem like they're going much faster than they really are. So they may seem like they're doing 65 in a 50, and they're really only doing 53 to 55. So if you have complaints about speeding, the proper area to go is the police department. You can tell us, and I will inform the chief, but I think that discussion that needs to be had is on a much different level, that we have to talk about funding and what you want to spend your tax dollars on. So there were signs put into the budget, the movable speed signs, not the ones on trailers, but the actual ones on poles, for 2 of them. I'm going to tell you right now, they help at first and then they don't. The discussion to have is, it's not really an enforcement thing. I'm not sure enforcement works. It's, if you know the person's speeding, say something to them. I've had every police chief that I've ever worked with has told me the best enforcement is if your neighbor's speeding down the road, call them on it, because you're going to do better at stopping that behavior than the police are. So if you know your neighbor and they're speeding, you need to say, sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. You need to say something. And that's, but we should have this discussion. I have no problem putting it on the agenda and doing some cost analysis on it, but I just wanted to bring that up because I know it was something that was very important last week and this week. I just wanted to point out, you have in your packet 2 shellfish warden reports. I don't think in my time here we've seen those. I also wanted to put out that I know there's been some discussion, point out that there's been some discussion about the truck, the shellfish truck, which is really a shellfish administration truck. The total miles put on the truck represented a reimbursement under the old system. If somebody was to be reimbursed, $650.56. So the truck is paying for itself in what we're not paying to employees for mileage reimbursement. We haven't had a real full month of its utilization, but we are saving money. I know that's important to us, and that was one of the things that came up when we made this decision. One other thing, a sad situation, but it warrants something being said. On last Wednesday evening, there was a head-on collision in Warren. There was an ejection onto the roadway and 2 seriously injured people. Waldoboro First Aid EMS did a fabulous, absolutely fabulous job on scene, and I just wanted to, we rolled all 3 rigs. EMT Derek Booker was the on-scene command, and you see these guys in the hallway, and they look very normal, and girls. They look like very normal people. They had 3 great saves that night, and you don't think about it. And a lot of times people come in and they say, oh, they're sitting around not doing anything. And you know what? You want them to be sitting around not doing anything, honestly. But when you need them, they're very important. So I just wanted to say Derek Booker, James Bodman, Mike Poli, Richard Lash, Kyle Santhanson, Teresa Lash. They did a fabulous job. I believe you were on scene.
Well, that's what I wanted to add, is that Andrew Santhanson.
Andrew Santhanson.
Who were
Yep.
at graduation for the police department also went over.
They also went over to the
We're
police
also
department, was
paramedic.
represented. And
And-
again, Justin's a paramedic, so
Larry
is.
and Jeff were over there too.
Right, so Kyle, Andrew is also a paramedic. So I want to point out that the next day it was a privilege for me to talk to somebody from Knox to hear about how wonderful our department is. And I just, you forget sometimes that there truly are great people walking among us, and you know, they look rather normal, but they're really superheroes. So if you see them, you might want to thank them, because sometimes it is a thankless job and it can be a very sad job. And I just wanted to take the time to say thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Consent calendar,
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
have a second?
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
I just want to point out on that consent is the letter from Washington about alewives,
Yes, it is.
which is a very important thing towards getting access.
Number 9, old business, update from the Sylvania Task Force.
I don't know if I can hook this up, I was told I could.
Yeah, you just hook it up. It should, and then you just turn on the top, it should work. I am not the most technically advanced person in the world, but.
Do you know how to look that up?
This little dongle thing.
No, she knows better than I do.
Okay, well,
Here, I'll do it. I'll try.
it needs a.
Doesn't have a Mac.
a
You
thing
need an
that-
adapter.
I told him I had a Mac and he said Liam said just bring my computer. I don't have the thing that goes in.
And Darryl can fix it.
So, but I do have the map, I can just put out on the table for everybody, that's what I was gonna put up.
Yes.
Yep, you're right. You don't have that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, should I be over here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just curious when you've been updated about what the Sylvania Task Force has been up to. I think you might have once, or have you been?
Bob is a couple
Bob,
of times,
I think the
but
last time, Bob.
Not really?
No, not
Okay, then
recently.
I just don't know how far back to go, but maybe I'll just sort of give a brief overview of where we've been and where we hope to be going. So just an overview of the site for those of you who don't know. In 1951, GTE purchased it from, it used to be a shoe factory, and they purchased it and started producing light bulb filaments and that type of thing. And started releasing contaminants at that point, but it was well before we had a Clean Water Act. So there were a lot of contaminants that got into the ground at that time. They just dumped them in certain areas. And that it all goes into bedrock underneath. It's fractured, so it's really hard to remove whatever gets down into the bedrock. So that's what's been happening there for quite a while. And 1988 is when the Maine Department of Environmental Protection wrote a consent order saying it's time to clean it up, because we had a Clean Water Act at that time, and they began to remove contaminants, which are mostly things from solvents. They're called volatile organic compounds, and that's what sinks down and just sits there forevermore, practically. And then Osram Sylvania bought it in the 90s, and then in 2006, manufacturing ceased. But all during that time, there were other leaks of this or that. There might have been pipes that broke or that kind of thing. And then in 2009, the building was taken down, and we've known what it's looked like since then, this pad. And in 2017, it was transferred to Leadvance. So I'm going to be referring to it as the Leadvance site, but you might think of it as the Sylvania site. And our task force formed a little more than a year ago. So what had happened was nothing during that almost 10-year period. You know, that nobody was really keeping track of what was going on. Occasionally stuff would get sent to the town, but we didn't even know where it went. So the task force formed, and our purpose was to look at what had happened at the site, you know, just try to get a handle on the level of contamination, what rules, regulations apply, how it could be used. I mean, those, I guess, were the three main things we were asked to do. So since that time, I'll just let you know what we've accomplished. We reviewed the files at the DEP. They had 12 feet of archived files, paper files, totally disorganized. So we spent a couple mornings going through those and pulling out the things that seem most relevant. And we put them on a timeline that will be accessible by computer hopefully soon. Michael Lang, who's on the task force, has been doing that. It was accessible, and then something happened to I forget the software program, so he's fixing that. But anyway, it's all really technical information, and we went through it making sense as we could of it. But then we met a guy named Joe Gornacha, whose brother lives on Fintown Road in Waldoboro, and he is an engineer that works for industry on this same problem. So he knows exactly where the industry is coming down on the issue. So he has been incredibly valuable to us, interpreting the documents and questioning, because he knows the questions to ask. So all through, we've been sharing documents with him and asking him to interpret. We've met with DEP staff twice, and lead bank staff and attorneys, and the engineering group that is doing the remediation work, which I'll talk about in a minute. We've met with them as well, and we toured the site once. And we've also, Mark Eckert has been interviewing former employees, because there've been a lot of sort of anecdotal information that stuff was dumped here, that type of thing. So he's been following up, just person by person, and had at least a dozen interviews so far, but he'll fill you in on that. We've also reached out to the Waldoboro Historical Society about the value of the Hofstas house, which is the gray house next to it that's just been sitting there sadly. And we've shared information we've collected with some investors who are interested in possibly developing a site for solar. So that's what we've been up to. And we've also created a pretty detailed map, which is what I wanted to project on the screen, but I'll just put it out before you, or I'll hold it up at first. This is, it actually is a contour map, thanks, that is 1 foot contours. It's the kind of thing technology can do now. It's someone I work with who did this map. And it shows the Sylvania site. I'll pass this around. It shows the location of every well that's put in. There's been over 20 monitoring wells put in. And there's 5 extraction wells where they're pulling up water to treat it, okay? So it shows where those are. It also shows where they've done shallow sampling based on reports of people that said, I think stuff was dumped here. They put down some shallow soil samples, and shows, fire hydrants, stone walls, power lines. So pretty much everything that's on the site is shown on this map, okay? And it also shows, let's see if I'm on to this point yet. Actually, I'll come back to this in a minute. We'll put it up again. But anyway, this map is here. Julie has many copies. We also have it with an aerial photo in the background, but this is actually a little more informative. And also shows you where you can tell where the old drainage used to be, because there was a stream where they dumped stuff into that was rerouted several times. So you can get a sense of where that is on this. So it's a really useful, it's just helped us understand the site a lot better. So I'll put this up again in a second and talk about these colored squares. So anyway, it was classified, there's a law called Resource Conservation Recovery Act, and this was classified as a site under that act, which is not like a Superfund site where the federal government's in charge. This is a sort of a lower level site where our own state Department of Environmental Protection is the one who's in charge, and they have to work with the federal government, but they're the ones we talk to, okay? And the reason for that in part is because groundwater is not being used by people to drink anymore, because it's on town water and all the houses are using town water. So they use this different set of guidelines. And so the goal under this act is to contain the contaminants so they don't keep spreading, and to prevent public health risk. And as long as the water's not being drunk, our DEP thinks it's not a public health risk, okay? And these volatile organic compounds aren't considered a threat because they sit there, and unless you suck them up with wells, you're not going to be exposed. They've also monitored heavy metals, and I know that's been a concern to clammers in particular because of the mudflats and the water draining down into even bigger mudflats farther down the river. And there are one well, we can hold this up again, we can put this out for you guys now. But there's one well that showed higher than the allowable levels of lead, which is right near the building here. But there's never been any monitoring in the mudflats. I think that would be DMR, Marine Resources purview. But as far as we know, there's nothing to suggest that that got down there, but we don't know. And there was also molybdenum, which there are high levels of that, but that again, they don't think is, I mean, it may be in the mud, and the idea is you don't disturb the mud, or you'll disturb the contaminants. And those two things could accumulate in shellfish, for instance, but the volatile organics can't, they don't accumulate. And once they hit, the volatile organics hit water, they just go into the air. So those aren't considered a problem. So we've been trying to just figure out what the risks are, where it is all going, if it's still spreading, we do know that there is some likelihood that it's spreading this way a little bit. So they put in 2 new wells on the Hofstas property. They just put them in May, and we'll have reports in the fall, and we'll have an idea of whether this plume is coming to some extent in this direction. As far as we know, there's no wells here that people are drinking from. There's some way down here, and it's very unlikely that the plume is going that far. But we want to be sure. That's been our question all along, is how do we know it's been contained? Because all the wells show levels of contaminant. There's none that don't. There's no clean wells. So we've been just trying to grapple with those kinds of questions, and it's been really time-consuming. But I think hopefully we'll have an idea in the fall that yes, it's being contained at the rate they're pumping water out and cleaning it. Won't keep spreading, which is the best we can hope for at this site. Once they get into the groundwater, they're going to be there for decades to a century or more. And there's really nothing we can do to speed up that process with current technology. So our job is to make sure DEP continues to enforce so that they're pumping it out and cleaning it up with the best technology we've got. That's what we're doing. And the idea is there's supposed to be a legal remedy in place by 2020. That's what DEP is trying to do. And so they've made sure it's a sort of state-of-the-art process. And these 2 new wells will help determine whether they need to put some more extraction wells somewhere else and keep pumping. So one thing they did that we weren't expecting to happen so soon is they put an environmental covenant on the property. And what happens is DEP puts this covenant, it's like an easement, saying what the site can and can't be used for forevermore. We thought we would be working with them to some extent, but that didn't happen. All of a sudden it was there as of February, and they do it with Leadvance. So now Leadvance deed has this attached to it, saying you can, and the main restrictions are anywhere on the property cannot be used for residential use, period, or school or nursing homes, or groundwater can't be extracted anywhere on the property, which is roughly 40-something acres. And then within these the pink area is considered a restricted area, and in that area you're not supposed to really disturb the soil, which was a surprise to us, meaning that even something like a solar farm, which we thought would be pretty benign, you have to get DEP's permission, and hopefully they'll be willing to do it, but they may not be. So this whole area here, which is pretty important, and is the ugly thing we drive by every day, is the part that they don't want much, if anything, to happen on ever. And same with those other 2 smaller ones. And then the area surrounded by blue is where the 2 new wells are, and they're waiting to see what the data shows. They may expand the restricted area, which to include a sizable piece, like more than 1/3 of the property. So our hands are kind of tied. And so what we're hoping to do going forward is, our goals are to make sure the plume doesn't spread. So, just keep DEP's feet to the fire. And unless someone in the town is paying attention, that may or may not happen. So I think a permanent vigilance, I don't think it has to be a task force necessarily, but someone on the staff who checks the permits when they come through, because they're allowed to discharge the effluent into the river and stuff like that, and just make sure they're still doing the work they're supposed to be doing. We're going to follow up on some leads of former employees, and Mark will talk about that in a minute. We'd like to promote the use of this, have it be a useful site. And it might be a solar farm is the best that we could hope for, and that would be great use of the site, in terms of where it's located and how it's laid out topographically. So we want to encourage that and just support it, but that's all we can do. It's up to Leadvance to decide whether they want to allow it. And then we want to encourage the sale of the Hoff's house ideally, and I guess Leadvance is considering that. It's on town water and it can be sold. The Historical Society said it has a lot of historical value, and it's still amazing to look inside. I mean, it's just got beautiful features that are still in place in spite of all the leaks you can see through the walls. So ideally, that'll be purchased and fixed up, but it could be purchased and raised. We don't know. But again, we don't have much clout. Julie was going to write a letter.
Part of this discussion tonight was just to get approval from the select board to send a letter to ask for a couple of things.
Yeah, to encourage that and encourage the use of solar, to consider allowing that on the site, and also
A fence.
Yeah.
And beautification of the site.
Yes, to possibly screen it. That's one of our last things we haven't done, and maybe we can tie it into the comprehensive plan or an ordinance, but, I mean, it is visual blight. It doesn't make the town look good. Nobody probably wants to buy the Hoff's house because they have to look at this thing. So it affects the town's economy. So, we want it, that's sort of the unfinished business. They're looking at that and what we can do and what should be done. Leaving the shore frontage undeveloped because of its, water quality, both right there and down the river, is probably, that's all we really can do. But it also, if someday we wanted a trail into town, it's a beautiful piece of forest land. And it would be a really nice place for a trail, but that's down the road. And keep in mind, when you walk the property, there are 20 well things, heads sticking up, you know, so it's, and they mow paths to those, the ones that they're monitoring still. Some of them they're no longer monitoring. So it's, you know, allowing public use would need to be carefully thought out there, but it's something we could consider down the road and something the task force would like to see happen. So I think that's where we're at. The task force, you know, I was appointed for a 2-year term, which would end next March. Our thought is that we've appointed several new members like Mark, and I don't know what the terms are, but I feel like the task force can eventually probably sunset, or at least step back and just make sure things are happening the way they should. You meet less periodically, and we've been putting in quite a bit of time, but the big thing, I think, is having someone who understands the physics and chemistry of it, which is a lot to ask. And we have Joe, who's volunteering his time, and hopefully will for a while longer, but it's complicated. It's really technical unless you're a chemist or you understand it. And it took us all a while to get above a certain learning curve, and I don't want to see everyone leave and then there you are again. You know, what's a VOC? What the heck is going on here? So that's where we're at, and Mark will tell you a little bit about what he's found with the interview.
Hello, just to introduce myself, I know most of you, but I'm Mark Eckert. My wife Gail and I bought a house at 157 Friendship Road in 2014. Gail moved up here in 2016. I moved up full-time in 2017, and I joined the task force in January. My main job on the task force has been conducting interviews with former employees. We started with a list of 12 names. 6 additional names are added to that through the contacts I made. The oldest employee started work there, I think, in 1951, and worked there for 37 years, and he's been retired for 34 years. So the wealth of knowledge is pretty broad. Unfortunately, given the age of some of these people, their memory of what happened at the plant is also kind of sketchy. But I did conduct 12 interviews. Several people declined to be interviewed. Other people I couldn't reach. I have 1 or 2 other people to try and interview over the summer. And the purpose of the interviews, as I understood it, was just to see if there was anything that DEP or Lead Vance didn't admit to that former employees might have known about. We did confirm some things about some dumping that happened before the regulations were put in place in, I think, the late 60s, early 70s. But there were no red flags that came up. Nobody admitted to anything that they thought was really egregious. And certainly after the EPA regs went into effect, all the former employees said, you know, we went by the book. You know, there might have been some minor spills. There was a leak in a pipe, but nothing was raised that triggered any concerns for me as the interviewer. I do have all the responses recorded, and it can be submitted. I don't know where it's going to be housed eventually, part of the timeline maybe. We do have 2 copies. One has the names attached to it. One is a redacted copy in case we want to keep the identities of the informants confidential. Michael, who's another member of the task force, went through and looked at the responses, and thanks to his knowledge of chemistry, he was able to add some addendum to some of the responses to clarify what people might have said. Some of the responses didn't make sense, but he gave it some clarity. So if you don't have any other questions. If you do know anybody else that used to work at the plant, please let me know. Bob is a person who can get a hold of me if you have somebody to recommend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. New business, 10.1.
Well, before we
I'm
move
sorry.
on, do I have your permission as a board to write the letters about the Hofstas house, the screening, and that we would support some type of development of a solar farm at the site?
You need a motion, Julie.
I just need general agreement,
Yes.
because you're all going to sign the letter, I just want to make sure that that's acceptable to all of you.
yes.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yes.
It'll
And
be
thank you.
actually 3 separate letters.
Okay.
Okay.
10.1, special taste testing event liquor license for Brad's and Brew tasting event at the VFW Hall. That's one you wanted when you
Yes,
bought
sir.
it.
That's what we need.
Do they have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
I'm recusing myself on this.
Yeah.
I've not-
They have a second, Jan?
Second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
It was
Thank you.
great fun last year.
10.2, catering event for Broadwing Farm Harvest Moon at Topsail Farm, 364 Bremen Road.
Make a motion?
Have a second?
Second it.
Discussion?
Just a point, and that is that we're gonna see more of these as time goes on this summer, and they're really important for the town. Some of these are local businesses that depend on these events for their well-being and livelihood. They're drawing points for people, they bring them to town, they spend their money in other places, not just at the event necessarily. So as long as everything's above board and in order, I think we should encourage this kind of thing.
Can we fast track some of the stuff if it's a repeat from the following year?
It's
To
a-
put it through the CEO?
I thought it was a yearly thing we had to do.
I'm just curious if it's gonna be a repeat and not a new.
You mean for the
event.
catering event?
For any of them, you know,
Well,
if they have
it's-
this event every single year.
Some of them are limited
This is
to the
yeah.
number based on their approval from the planning board.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will streamline what we can, how would that
Okay,
be?
yep. No, I'm just saying if they're gonna have to come back every single year, I mean, if they could go into the office and just go see, or either the planner or the,
Okay,
code enforcement officer, and if it's a yearly thing, then
I
they
will
can just get the
report back,
permit. and-
how about if I report back at the next meeting?
I mean, if it's a new one, then I agree they should come to here, but I'm just curious.
Just to mention that this is to benefit the Waldo Theater, which is important to our town. It's in the center, it brings people in, it's cultural in our town. And the other one we okayed was for our public library, and it doesn't get more important than that. So
I just,
keep that in mind.
Any more comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. 10.3, IT policy revision.
This was brought up as a result of requirements from the provider for software services for the police department with the changing in passwords. As was brought up, Bob and I have had, I guess, offline discussion about some of his
We did.
concerns with the IT policy. I just want to say, it is a lenient policy about use of computers for personal use. We're a very unique situation here in that we have 24-hour employees. And essentially, this becomes their home for those 24 hours. When this IT policy was originally put into place and we took, I guess, I was not here when this was originally adopted, they took the least restrictive one from that MMA suggested through the insurance. Because we do have EMS people who are here full-time, 24/7, well, not 24/7, but 24/7 in theory. In order to continue to use the software, we have to have the password changed, the changes made in the policy. If, I know Bob wants to send this to the CTC committee, I have a different opinion on that, but at least if tonight we could at least make these changes so that we can still use the software, I think that's important, and then have a discussion on where you want it to go before you see it again. But I think that in order to comply with our software vendor and the county, we have to have the change for the passwords.
The red.
Yes.
There are a couple edits on paragraph 1 that while you're changing things, you might as well fix those too. I just a comment on people using it who are here. I worked at Taction nights for 15 years, and we were encouraged to use the computer when we were not on a call. We were encouraged to use it, because then we were always right there, eyes on it. We were always engaged when a call came in. I taught school for 25 years I think it was 30. And we used on our off time, not during class time, but sometimes, now, I work at the schools here, and sometimes the teachers are using their computers during class time. And they're using it to look things up, to do all kinds of different things. So I don't think it's a problem, I think, to
Well,
ask
I mean,
on
there's
you have to
two
be
schools,
careful.
there's two
Yeah.
schools of thought. I mean, you're gonna have, and it's a discussion maybe that needs to be had. people do it.
They do, and
You're not writing a policy that says you're not going to use your work computer for personal. I'll be honest, I break it. If we had that, I would break it every day. I'm telling you how it is. I'm going to check my personal email. If you make me do it on my phone, I'll then have to do it on my phone. But
What
I'm going to
difference-
do it.
but what difference does it make, yeah, as far as time and,
You know, we haven't had issues with people. I mean, I'm sure we've had issues. We have safeguards for things that we shouldn't be looking at, but this is the 20. This is
here we
this is
are.
how we are. Again, I'm not sure it needs to go to the CTC. I'm not sure. That's up to you guys. If you tell me to do it, I'll do it.
I don't know, I think. that
But
it's-
I
yeah.
just think it's a more lenient, you know, everybody at first wanted, you know, you're not gonna do it, you're not gonna do it. Everybody does it.
Well, why couldn't you at lunchtime or in your break time? Why would
Well,
you-
that's typically,
why-
I don't actually have lunch. I don't typically
Yeah.
go to lunch
But
apparently.
if you're sitting.
But if
working-
I am sitting there eating my salad, I do go on my Facebook page and look at my cute little adorable grandchild. I'm not gonna, my
So
little
as long-
raptor is there and I'm looking at him. So, you know, and I might post a picture of my grandchild at my desk
Yeah.
when I'm at work.
Mine.
I might.
So
you know.
use, but not abuse.
Use but not
Use
abuse.
seems fine to me, abuse is not.
But again, that's,
But
maybe that's
that's
a
up
broader
to-
discussion that the CTC should have.
Yeah, I'd only point out that when you use the town computer to access your personal email or your personal Facebook page,
Mhm.
that's very different from using the email system in the office to receive mail that's personal, or to go out and do things of a personal nature that are isolated within the network that is part of the town network. This place has Wi-Fi. I can sit outside and, if I know the password, I can get on the Wi-Fi and use anything I want.
On a good day.
You can do that at the library, you know, in town. But I'm more concerned about the security of the system per se. And I think it would be helpful to have this discussion. I think it would be helpful to have it first at the CTC level. I'm not gonna stand in the way of going, although I don't know what's been changed in the policy. It hasn't been redlined.
It's,
So,
Yeah, it's mine.
not my
it
copy.
is.
Mine is.
Okay.
Basically, the password, restart up
Yes.
and whatnot.
Right.
Security and propriety.
All right, thank you. All right.
90 days.
Every 90 days. And then after a certain period of time, the screen goes blank
Okay.
of idleness. That was really what was
Yep,
changed.
all right. I don't have a problem with that.
I don't mind,
But I do wanna have the discussion.
have the discussion. You know, that's up to you guys.
So I guess my motion would be to move that we accept this tonight,
Yep.
and that we refer the
Just
policy.
the changes.
Yes.
Yeah, the policy's already been in place
That
for
we
years.
refer the policy to the CTC for their review.
Okay. Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
Passwords make my brain crazy.
Changing it every 90 days is
Yes.
gonna make my brain crazy.
Yeah, exactly, I looked at that, and thought, I'd have to write it
10.4.
on the computer.
Award of contract to Wright Pierce for facilities plan for water system.
I originally gave you two proposals and one no. We went with this one and I actually kind of took the bull by the horns and the water company called me because Wright Pierce was who they recommended. And they had availability to start early. So we went with them. So it's kind of you're approving after the fact. I apologize for that. I did read that I do have the ability to sign contracts, but I always like you to look at them. They've done work for us before. So that's why they recommended
Yeah,
them.
I know that company from years ago,
Yes.
from their talks, I think. They were
Have
brand-
a
I'm
motion on
not gonna
that?
beat Julie up on this at all.
That you can.
But I will point out two things. One, this doesn't have a completion date or a commencement date. Two, she does have authority to sign contracts that are less than $10,000 or $10,000 or less. This one is $15,000.
Well, our portion of it is 75.
Well, that's our portion being Waldeboro's portion?
Yes, the other part is covered by a grant.
Okay, but it's still a
I
$15,000
know,
deal.
yeah, I know exactly what I did.
Yeah. Still a $15,000 deal.
She's fessing up,
That's enough.
okay.
And there's no mention of the grant in here either. So the source of funding, the town's on the hook for it. Whether we get the grant or not.
We
we're
have the
still on
grant,
hook.
so yeah.
But we're still on the hook. it's town money that's being spent. And
It's
if
not town money. Well,
supplemented by-
no, it's not town money. I'm gonna pull an Abden.
All right.
It's not taxpayer money. It's, water user money. It's water
Okay.
company money,
Then why are you signing it? Why don't they sign it?
because we are the water company.
No, but they have a board, an independent board, and they have an executor who
Because
can
we have to sign it.
documents.
Because technically, we're the water company.
I'm sorry, I'm not satisfied with that answer, because I know the water company goes out and contracts services that we don't even read about. We see reports, we know the money's been spent, but they write the checks. Why are they not writing this check? Why are we?
Because this is one of those things that we need to award. It's not a daily operation. That
know.
was my
Okay.
understanding of how that works.
That goes back to my point, then it should have been on our desk before it was on yours, or, I mean, we should have seen this. That's the only thing I'm gonna point out. I would like to see a completion date on here, though. We need to hold their feet to the fire.
They're completed.
somehow. Sorry?
They're completed. It's completed.
The study's completed? Well, then-
As of when?
I believe yesterday.
Well, then we don't need to be looking at this, do we?
Well, it's, like I said,
If it's completed and we are,
it's, I don't have it in my
Bound
hand, but
by
yes,
the
it's.
deal, then it's just, basically, you,
Well, we should have done it at our last meeting, and I thought our last meeting was gonna be, I thought our meeting was sooner, so we would have done it, the cart got before the horse on this one. I'm not gonna,
and no damage done. They've gone ahead and done the work without our approval.
well, they had my approval,
No, but the select board
right.
didn't approve it. I don't see any point in discussing it any further.
Well, it should be even an approval after the fact. I like, believe it or not, I like to try to do things right. It was just one of those things that it needed to be done. These are the things that need to be done, and we had a window. I took the window.
This is
I'd
for-
rather ask forgiveness than permission on this one,
So this is for our information, not for our approval,
I guess.
because it's.
Sure.
It's a done and, well, just.
You
keeping
can,
us
you can,
informed.
if you feel better not approving it, it's fine. I'll take the hit.
So do we have an action on this?
It says award, but, yeah.
I already signed it.
And do we, as a board, have anything you'd like us to do, other than just be aware of it?
Be aware of it, I guess. We'll go with that.
It's an out-of-policy document. That's the only way I can describe it.
Well, but you know about it.
We do now.
Well, you knew about it, but see, this is where you knew about it in a town manager's report a month ago, when you got all the things.
We didn't know it was awarded. We didn't know you'd signed a contract.
No.
We knew it was under discussion.
Right, but
And
so
we
I don't want everybody to
expected-
think you didn't know about it at all. We knew about it, but I had to make that decision, and I made that decision.
Okay.
Anything else? No executive session tonight?
You have Board of
Yeah,
Assessors.
Yeah, we have.
Okay, so we need to convene as Board of Assessors.
I move we adjourn as a Board of Selectmen.
Take a second.
Are you?
Second?
All those
Yes,
in
you
favor?
tape, do you tape that?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh.
I can still be here right there, I just can't vote.
Yes, you may want to.
I was reading some of this stuff, and I was
Yeah,
gonna ask you to see if I could stay.
yes. I was wondering whether to ask you to.
Yes, I thought I knew.
Because I know somebody else in the room is having a meltdown about these. And I had a good comeback. I had a really good comeback for him,
Are you leaving now?
about just solar panels
About my solar panel? Yeah. What about?
being assessed.
Oh, I'm all ears, what I should say.
But you remember what I told you about? Property,
got the one thing,
property
Darryl?
tax.
Yeah.
Personal equipment tax or
The
whatever.
abatement we tabled for George Enman.
Yeah, right.
Are you staying for this or you?
I'm just gonna stay to observe.
And then solar panels, which is repair. And then if we want to change any land values, which is the whole usable waterfront, we want to X that. And
I'm not retired.
That due to the 3 sales on Diva Road.
Certainly don't
I know.
feel like it.
No, I know, I
You've heard about them?
Yeah,
Stop it.
man, they went
Can't
fast.
help it.
Well,
I
they're,
don't you, I just have a
and-
question.
Yeah,
they ran a water line under the culvert. Did you hear about that?
no,
The Proc
is that right?
put one through the culvert and there's no,
What's that?
Because there's issues of water on that side, I know that.
the Procs are selling one of their properties down on the Diva Road. And to get water, they just ran a water line through the town culvert and took it to a well on the other side. And
How long ago did they do that?
I don't know.
Doesn't it freeze in the wintertime?
It's a summer cottage.
Oh,
I know, I've heard all about that cottage. There's been some fun times down there from people that I know that were around the Procs.
we're waiting for Jan, aren't we?
Yeah, so,
Are we handing in her evaluations tonight?
Yep.
Yeah.
Supposed to.
Yes,
You-
supposed to give it to her tonight, I gave it to her.
Did you give it to her?
So that must be pending the sale of the products.
well, they need easements to the well and they need easements to
Right.
get the well to the camp and Johnny's saying, no, we're not. So I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, he's digging and digging and digging.
Right.
Whether it'll end up on your table trying to get
Consent agreement or something?
something.
Oh, did she
Something.
already leave?
She went to the bathroom.
No, I mean Julie.
Yes, I don't know that
Julie's.
she's left, but she's
Do we
in
have
the-
I don't know what's happening.
Do we have any
We're just
checks
waiting
to-
for our Jan to come back and we'll call the
So-
I
meeting
know,
to
but do
order.
we have anything to sign tonight?
I didn't see nothing to do.
No folder.
No
Want me to ask him?
She walked right out again. Bob wound her up and she left.
The day I wind her up will be,
Oh, what course,
She'll be there.
she coming in?
what course of action does a select board take when they hear a complaint or something from a citizen? Do I take it up with who?
Julie.
Okay. All right.
And 95% of the time she's on it. And she gets back to me and usually I have her talk to that person, have that person get back to me.
Okay.
Works good.
Okay,
I'll
Never
call
had
this-
that, haven't had that for a long time.
okay.
All set?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. First item on, this is the Board of Assessors. It's Tuesday, June 12th, 2018.
It's on.
I think it's still running.
So
Call to
moved.
order. Citizens' comments? Nothing.
No
Approve the
citizens.
consent calendar for the minutes of the
So moved.
April 10th meeting. Got a motion to approve them. Is there a second?
Second. Oops.
Is there a second?
Yep,
Yes, second.
Jan.
Jan, okay. Any discussion? All in
I
favor?
didn't get no minutes, but okay.
Okay.
You've signed them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course I did.
And then we have an abatement request, number 2018-20.
We had this before.
Yes, George Enman sold the farm with 5.5 acres, kept a lot of 1.8 next to the Ables down at the very cove before you turn into the Marine Park.
Know it well.
Had it valued as title at $160,000. There's a sign up with his number on it, it's for sale. He thought it might be worth between 95 and 105,
Is that raw land?
raw land, just a lot
You
there.
know George's place there by the landing.
I probably do.
Park.
Right there next to it.
Yeah.
I probably do, I just.
So what we're calling an inlet, there isn't really an inlet
Right,
here, is an
right.
$87,000 value. And if anybody could come up with a term that would be best flat out, I've heard these different terminology, but something that the tide just disappears and it's, I don't know if there's a.
think that's coming.
There's no smelt brook there.
If I get real light, that's coming. Just a heads up.
Well, whenever you can get it to me, sooner better.
I think it's gonna be a rule change.
And do you have a term or
Huh?
is there a?
Not yet, but we do, but it's a
Wait.
lawyer term and,
Can I use it?
I can't remember what it is.
Okay, all right,
There is one
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
I
get
just
it
can't
for
remember
me.
exactly
Get
what
it
it is,
for
but
me.
it's lawyer term,
good. That's what we need.
so.
This is supposed to be taped, right?
Yes.
This is an
This
executive.
tape.
So,
So you want to call it river title, based on
No,
what we
I
saw?
want, River Title is
When you're
hundred
done.
and sixty, and I don't think he can get hundred and sixty for his 1.8 acres, because it muds out so far, or whatever. Talking with Carlton, there's mud, and then there's mud. There's gotta be some term that,
It's all mud, for sure.
I mean, you don't wanna call it a cove, because some coves are deep,
Right.
so
Title or intertitle is
intertidal instead
intertitle.
of,
Inter-
in-
Intertitle.
we're
Which would
calling
be-
it inlet, but we
Right.
should say intertidal.
Mud cove.
That's what it is.
Yeah, well, it's descriptive anyway.
Yeah, but when you go with a shellfish program, title, intertitle, subtitle are our definitions that the state has jurisdiction over the subtitle, towns have jurisdiction over the intertitle.
So yeah, if you could get what we, perfect, but I would recommend the.
Can you explain to me why this qualifies as intertidal instead of?
Because
river
at
inlet?
low tide, when you're standing there, the edge of the channel is way out.
It is.
I guess it's way out.
It is way
There's
out.
nothing now.
And there
There's
is
no
none.
water there.
No, there is none.
No, there's not even a smelt brook up in that place. There's nothing there. Just saying.
So you're proposing to assess it at
87,000 versus the 160.
So it's 1226?
Correct.
I would move that.
So, sorry, Clint, you're moving
Amount
87?
recommended.
You're moving 87,000?
Correct.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of 87,000? Any opposed? 4-0.
Okay, the next item is White Duck Community built a solar farm with 240 panels of solar power down on Duck Puddle Road, and it was up and operating in December. So the big question is, what value do you place on these things that cost $250,000 and they got a $80,000 credit and on and on and on?
Yeah, big credit.
And if you tax the solar farm, do you then tax all solar in the town, is the question. If you're doing the big 240, do you get the guy with 2 panels? My recommendation, in the past, towns have put $1,000 a panel on it, and they're just getting shot out of the water saying, it's ridiculous, it doesn't cost that today, and it's not worth that. There was appeals last year was these solar farms came up, and they valued them on their replacement costs with some depreciation, and they were all challenged, and they settled out of court. But my recommendation, knowing very little about it, I gave you a list of those that I've found so far. I haven't done the whole town, but recommend $300 a panel to keep it simple. The other way, you would study exactly where the panel is, what it's producing, what it's not. Everybody would be different. You put it onto a formula. They recommend depreciating it every year and what have you. But if we went with $300 per panel and then depreciated from there based on age, the assessments you would see on the right there, first one being 12 panels, $3,000 value on down. If it's,
300 being right new, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's part of a business, they can, and they're newer than '07, they're exempt under Betty. The other thing is the fire department wanted a list, because if they go to a fire to this property, they need to cut the power source. They don't want to light it up with their lights, or all of a sudden they got power surge at their fire. So,
There's a
he
couple
wanted a
of-
list, where is it? It's on the barn roof, it's on the ground, it's on the roof, where is it? So for anything, do this for Paul. Previously, there was exemptions for solar back 20 years ago, and they did away with it, and the legislature has been hammered to try to get this back, and Abden can tell us more as to the debates up there, but it did not pass with Governor LePage or whatever. So the question to the board is, do we tax it? What do we tax it? Do we do just the solar farm, or do we do all solar in town? You've got 240 panels down there. The next largest is 80 panels down on Friendship Road.
I'm
on
recusing
business.
myself on this one.
Okay, that's on the business.
For reasons.
And another 18 for the house. The business would be exempt under Betty. The other exempt business is Weintreb, had a business down there with both wind and solar that got exempt.
So should we tax anyone that goes through this anyway?
Is it home improvement?
It certainly
I'm
is
saying,
a,
yeah.
And
Is an
so
asset.
if you improve your house, if I put a deck on or something to improve my house, my taxes are gonna
Go up.
go up a little.
the argument is show me where the sales are there that you're gonna pay more, 3,000 more for this property.
For the property?
Because it has.
Well,
Well,
And-
because when you sell a piece of property, well, I shouldn't be talking anyways, but
right.
if you improve a house, you're gonna get the money back out of it.
It depends if the system's working. Sometimes the system's not even working any longer. Supposedly, there's studies in other states that say they'll sell faster, but not necessarily for more money. But there's not, they're not gonna pay a whole lot here, but they could challenge us and
Yeah.
scream and holler, so.
I would think it's value added to a home for a buyer. If it's not working, just like anything, you,
Septic system's not working in a house, you get a reduction on the price
right,
too.
then you, yeah.
Right,
that's
you take the value
You
off,
take
no
it off,
value.
yeah, right.
Obviously, they have to wait a long time to get their investment back and save their money, but
Yeah.
they're thinking,
I don't think we should do a whole lot, I mean, like you were saying of other towns that. And you're talking per panel, do you have any like groupings, from this to this so much, from here to here?
just
So you can
trying
adjust
to,
per,
trying to count
Yeah.
panel and call it. And again, there's different panels, and I'm not into, there's some tubes, there's some checkerboards, I call them, I don't know, I'm not an expert on solar, it is an item. Ted Worcester actually came up in voting and said there was an article in Portland, we shouldn't be taxing these, today in the Portland paper, so I haven't read it, but it is a debate across the whole state of Maine.
Yeah.
We do have a solar farm here in town.
Right.
I guess some towns are gonna tax just the farms and not the individuals, and I don't know where that would end up.
Well, they ought to tax all or none.
Is kind of where we've
Right,
been.
I would say none.
Joe, where did they come up with the $300 per panel?
I came up with it, I believe 900 is the estimate to put for a panel today, and tax it at a third. So I came up with hoping something that would be low enough that we wouldn't get a lot of challenges, and yet we got some value on it. But that's my,
How much revenue will that create if you did go with your assessment?
so we got about 200,000 here, and if we take in,
$3,500 in revenue.
yes, I'm guessing.
what would it, let's take an example here, like an average one, if there's such a thing. What would that do to their taxes? How much money would that?
It's 1,680 1,000, so
Okay. Okay,
$50 on the first one, or 60
okay, so
bucks.
it's not a huge amount.
Are co-ops exempt in any way? Because
Businesses are
Point Duck
exempt.
is a co-op.
Co-ops is it's ownership, but it's not exempt. The town is exempt, even though we don't own it. There's a section in the law that says if we're the only user and we're exempt, then it's exempt. So we didn't have to go taxing the one up at the dump.
That was a question I had, when I heard that you was running around assessing solar panels. Because technically,
Is
we
that
don't
what
own
that's
it.
That's correct. We
But we
do
own
not
the
own it.
land.
But there is a section of the law that if we're the user,
Electricity.
then it's exempt. So that got us around that one, if you remember, Bob. We were,
Well, I think our agreement with them makes it exempt. Aren't they, Julie? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just exempted them.
What do other towns do? Do they bother with this?
again, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Some don't, some do, but when
Yeah.
you get a $250,000 solar farm, or the one up in Bangor is 100 acres of
Yeah, it's
solar
like
or something.
a $5 million or something like a $5 million.
So then all of a sudden, I guess we gotta do something.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But if you look at Massachusetts now, they're shying away from it. Rooftop solar,
They're shying away from
rooftop solar.
rooftop solar.
Because it's costing ratepayers between $2.5 and $4 billion more in the course of 5 years. Wow.
Because they're not,
Electricity,
because they're not paying.
Because of the electricity cost. And that's why they're looking at running hydro from Canada to Massachusetts now.
Yeah, see that.
They'd rather spend $950 million on that project than.
We could have a long discussion about the wisdom of putting in sticks and wires instead of creating regional utilities that don't require all those sticks and wires, but
I got theories on
I'm
that
not,
too.
yeah.
I got theories on that too, but.
Yeah.
So,
The theory of the stick and wire.
well, you want a motion, Bob?
Yes, sir.
We would make a motion that we don't tax them at all.
Not even the solar farm worth
No.
250,000. It's not exempt, but
Is there a second to that motion? No second, the motion fails.
Okay.
Any further motions on this issue?
Well, if everyone's opposed, they ought to make a motion
No,
on
we gotta
something.
think, we gotta think for the words.
Yeah, got them rose-colored glasses on, I guess. I don't know.
Where did that come from anyways? I got that text earlier.
Yeah. We worked through that.
I had cataract surgery, I don't need those.
I think we ought to
I'm missing
tax,
that.
but don't do it too much, because then people won't do it at all.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Kate. That's a good point.
Julie, do you know where we stand? Abden does not vote. We got 4 voters here. He's abstaining. I've only got 3 voters. Do I need 3 votes to get him pass on a 5-member
3
board?
votes is, you're fine.
But a 2 will not do it.
2 will do it if 1 abstained and 1 can't vote.
It will. We're
I
okay
believe
with that.
so,
All right.
under
There's
Robert's
still a
rules.
majority
We're
of
okay.
those who are
All right,
voting.
just checking
Yeah,
before
so,
we vote.
yeah.
A majority
There
of
could be
those
3.
present.
Okay, so looking at, now I'm with Katie on that, I think that makes sense. I think they should be taxed because it is added value to the home, but not taxed so much that it would make people not want to do it.
Yep.
Or those who have done that, make it feel like a punishment. So, it's like 16, blah, 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 16.5, what is it again?
1680.
1680 per thousand.
48 bucks. $48, $49, $50 for the first one would be added to the taxes. But you also have depreciation.
Yeah, it's
after
new,
that.
yeah.
So
Right.
it may not even be that.
Okay, so for this one, and then, but this one is a cooperative, there are lots of people involved, like 10 people? So it would be divided by 10, so that is bad.
It'd be 70,000, 1,020 bucks a year, divided by 10, so it costs 120 bucks a person.
Yes.
Daryl, you want to table this until the next time we meet so people have a little time to think about it?
Katie, do you have any other numbers? Other than 300?
And poor
Is there
people
something
are
we
trying
could
to
do?
make things straight, get away from the
Well.
big business and all
Stop.
that.
Well, if you add a greenhouse to your house, you're saving on your
Oh, I
food
know.
and so on, but it's still added value to your home.
300 per panel. And here's my, hold on a minute here.
Oh, are they?
There's my,
I think it's something
Exempt
else.
from taxing, correct?
Everything's
They're not?
exempt, that's
Why aren't
that's
those
the
exempt?
taxpayer.
Those are exempt out there.
It's $300 per panel.
Everything's exempt except the taxpayer. Jesus.
The Moose Crossing Garden Center, oh no, we tax them. So then I go after every little coverlet, because if I do them, I do everybody's little greenhouse. If you put a greenhouse down there, I'm gonna give you $100 value.
Yeah, but that only pertains to a 10 by 10 or larger.
No. You don't have to get a building permit, but I can tax anything you put on your property, unless it's exempt by law.
And that's why Bob and I-
Taxation's the rule.
Bob and I had this discussion about personal property tax.
Well,
We
I'm
did.
exempt because I need it for my trash.
In Rangeley,
Sorry?
they do tax you on personal property, like your furniture.
But a lot of
and stuff
towns do
like
not.
All right,
Right,
let's
that's
get
right.
back to this.
They've
All
just
of
changed
those.
it, but you- I
But
need
it's
to
all
pay.
There's no
It's all-
motion.
Well, someone needs to do that.
Someone
I've
needs to
done
make
what
a
I could
motion
do.
either
No one
to
wanted
continue
that.
the discussion or.
Would it,
or to
Would it
table
be
it?
of value if we lowered the 300 per panel?
No,
Would
no,
that
you
still
can do
give
that.
us?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that, would that be a compromise?
Certainly.
I would say 300 is the most.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to go 250, or do you want to go 200, or do you want to tax
Just,
only?
just one question, I'm just curious for my own benefit. If these panels depreciate in value, which they do, and prices at the same time are coming down, I
Mhm.
mean, panels 10 years ago were far more
Right.
expensive than panels
Today.
today. How does that work into the calculus?
Again,
And
we're
would then
just,
could someone come back next year and request a rebate because the market value of the panels has gone down? I don't know how you prove that, but does that get into a catch-22 in its own? in a different way?
again, back on the personal property side, as long as it's value and use, the IRS depreciates it off to zero, but as long as you're using whatever the item is to produce income, we tax it at 30%, is the bottom we go on equipment if you have a piece of.
That's for a business, but if
Yes.
it's residential and you're not producing income,
True.
then how do you measure its value?
You ideally would measure it by the market, but nobody has been able to prove what it adds.
Yeah, it's
Other
a
than it
tough one with
supposedly
solar.
sells quicker. And if somebody wants to just be good to the environment, they love it and feel good about it, but it could be cost them money. Why do people do these crazy things?
I'm not gonna say anything.
Well, it's a good thing to do.
Well, see, now he's got the panels, let's leave it at 300.
Shoot.
But he's exempt.
I am,
It's his
I am,
business.
yeah.
Only on the
I'm,
business.
this has
houses,
nothing to do
no.
with
Just
me. I am out of
yeah.
this discussion in terms of anything you decide
I'm
to do.
just
He's got
teasing.
18
So
on the house.
300 for him and
And
200 for everyone else?
else. I think that's more than fair.
So good.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion? Is there a second?
No, let's come up with something, though. I don't know, I don't wanna get people riled, because it is a good thing, they're doing something
How
good for
about a
the
percentage?
environment.
250?
Maybe 2. What do you think, Katie?
I was thinking 2.
All right, make a motion. Let's go. I
Make a
gotta go
motion.
close the polls. at 10
Make a
minutes.
motion.
Tell them,
Oh,
please, Tom.
you got about 10
200,
minutes.
200 per panel.
Okay, it's a motion by Katie Winchembatch. I heard it.
All right, is there a second to 200 per panel?
Second.
Is there any further discussion about 200 per panel? All in favor? All opposed? Votes 2-1, motion passes.
You abstain.
I abstain.
Okay, now moving on to good stuff.
Is that all you need me here for?
Well, no, we're on to the, also in there was our land schedules. Historically, every 3 years, we take a look at where we're at with our assessments. And so there's 3 years' worth of sales in here based on zoning. So Schedule 1 is Route 1, Schedule 2 is paved roads, 2 acres, Schedule 3 are dirt roads, on down through. Basically, it's still kind of up in the air, although we're moving towards more sales are more than the assessment than less, but it's kind of 50-50. If you have to sell tomorrow, you might take half price, or you might get a good deal and people might compete and pay more than you're asking. The 2 areas that have sold that I recommended changing one was the condominiums. There are 8 condos over there, 4 of them sold. They sold at 75, 92, 107.5, and 115. And we got 123 each on them. So if we take 10% off, we come in at 113, and would recommend that change to our condominiums, because when 4 out of 8 have
Can
sold.
you do a 4-unit average? Would that be more?
It might come below that. It just, we got a 10% window also, so 113, one sold, the corner one sold a little higher, but at least it would,
Okay.
I think, if they come in, which they have asked over and over, when are you gonna lower the assessments, that
How
should be done.
comparable are the units? Are they identical or are they?
Yes,
They
other
are,
than the ends.
really?
You got
But there's
4 on
that
the
kind of
ends and 4 on the
variability
ends.
in the sale price.
$40,000, that's quite a,
Well,
That's
the
a
end
heck of a
pieces
swing.
end pieces always have more value.
I'm sorry.
More windows.
End-
End pieces
end
always
pieces
have
do.
more value
what
because
was
they
your-
only have one,
What was your figure?
That's right.
you know.
To,
they-
to
they're
drop
all-
it from 123 a
Higher
unit down to 113.
I
We
would
have them
move
as a
that.
C plus two.
I would move that, Bob.
113.
Yep.
Is there a second? All
Second.
in, discussion? All in favor of 113?
So the next one is the river. We have 3 properties that have sold on Diva Road or under contract. And I had them due to piers, one without a pier at deep water. And you go down there and they do not have
No deep
deep
water.
water at the end of the pier. They
Yeah.
can float a boat, but it's not what you would call. And then, of course, the whole argument that they've had right along with the Johnstons and the Higgins and the Paysons are that they're tidal. They're not usable, they're not deep. So, given those 3 sales, they were at the 329 range and 227 range, would recommend doing away with our deep water on Diva Road and our usable terminology, go to title, and then value the docks. So, for instance, Mrs. Higgins would be
Happy.
reduced until she builds a dock, she would not be valued for it,
I think that's really fair.
in looking at it.
Yeah.
If sales take off, we go the other way, but right now, it's a sad market on our river for people that need to sell, I would say. The greens were the other ones that were over on Bremen Road, started at $599,
Jesus.
just took 300,000 for it. Then another one, Ann Creamer's, put 715 on it and got an offer instantly. I think we got 500 on hers, so it bounces, but
location.
So you need a motion on that, Bob?
Well,
yeah,
do you understand what he's asking? for?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, make the motion.
I'll make a motion that it's, the deep water will go to title now. Do I understand that right?
and usable will disappear.
Usable will disappear.
For those areas, right?
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Any thoughts on that,
All in
Abden?
favor? 4-0.
All righty. Voting has been heavy, we'll adjourn, and I can go close, lock the door.
To adjourn?
Yeah.